All right. So before I introduce Gayatri, I just would like to take a minute on why we have started the external speakers session, especially at this juncture, right? Be it sales, be it marketing, be it HR, be it technology itself, right? Talent, acquisition, everything is changing, and it's the time for us to evolve as technology changes. To me, it's just not about technology. It's about human intelligence than artificial intelligence. And I can't think of anyone better than Professor Gayatri. I have a very personal connect, I must say. So perhaps, so this is the right time, I believe, to kick off this conversation. And I can't think of any better person than Gayatri, like I was telling. So I'll do a little bit of introduction about Professor Gayatri Das Sharma. She is executive education faculty at one of our most respected and reputed institutions, or I would say B schools in the world. I think it is ranking at 11 or 12 in the world. Yeah, she's coming from that background, Indian School of Business. And she's also co-founder for Timshel, where her expertise is into, coaching, consulting larger organizations shape better, not only in the AI world, but even previously. She's coming with, almost 25 plus years of experience. But I would like to introduce Gayatri slightly differently here. Yeah, so to me, she's always very special, and I would say, there was one story that I wanted to call here. It's a 𝗶𝘂𝘁 and or a 𝗶𝘶𝘂𝘁 connection with me and Gayatri. So there was one sofa that actually moves from generations, and almost like for 60 years of generation. And more than the particular ad itself, right? What really connected all of us in the morning lecture was she has a different view of looking at things. It's a very, similar issue or a familiar issue, I would say, for all of us. But her lens of thinking or, perspective is quite different. That's one of the key takeaways during that entire lecture. And I'm so privileged to actually bring in Gayatri here from that angle. And to begin with, maybe I'll start off this discussion with a small question, Gayatri. Everything is changing, how we work, how we operate, how, I mean, as an individual or as an organization, everything is evolving at this point of time, right? So with that said, how do you think the biggest mind shift that everybody should bring in, both individually and at an organization level?
Yeah. And thank you, Jayasree, for the warmth, and Sunil as well. I think it's been such a joy just talking to you, and it really got me thinking about the topic, because as I was mentioning earlier, this is something that we are still exploring together. So I just want to start with a disclaimer that I am no expert at AI and how it's impacting leadership. I'm still in a process of discovery, and I think we'll discover this together. And a lot of discovery happens through the questions that you ask. And maybe I'm going to start with a question, and Jayasree, and this is in response to kind of the question you asked me. So a show of hands, how many of you have used AI over the last week? And no judgment out here. And Jayasree, you can probably see everybody's hands. But if you can put up your hands. Yeah. How many of you have used AI over the last week? And the numbers are only pretty much all of us, right? So it is all pervasive.
Yeah.
26. It's going up. It's going up. Absolutely. So all of us. So no judgment. And we should be. That's the good news. Yeah. So AI is already changing what we do. Stuff that earlier you'd spend probably hours doing, AI is doing it maybe in a couple of minutes, or in certain cases, a couple of seconds as well. So I think the interesting question for us is, what is it that we need to stop doing? What should we start doing? And what remains deeply human? And I think it's about holding that curiosity across these three and having the discernment to ensure that we are doing this intentionally and not using AI as a default mechanism for everything that we do. And that's really the space I'm going to take us into, how AI is there, how it's impacting us, and how some of the things perhaps we haven't paid attention to are becoming even more important for us as this transformation is taking place. And just to take us through, I just wanted to share a couple of slides. So we, Jayasree, in some sense, are able to then anchor our discussion. Is that all right? Yeah. So I'm going to bring them up. Are you able to see my screen?
It's loading, but yes, okay. We are able to see.
Okay. So I think humanity is not new to disruption. We've had disruption from the time globalization started. And very simply, what was globalization? Globalization was that we now started doing business with people that we were not familiar with across boundaries. And therefore, leadership was no longer restrained to the geography that you were familiar with. So leaders started leading across borders. Then we had the 2008 financial crisis. Some of you might have been quite young, but those of my vintage remember it very, very clearly. It kind of sent the world into a complete tailspin. And we almost felt that the world is going to implode in itself. And really at that point of time, what was required was rebuilding trust, leading through managing risk. And we survived the financial crisis. And if you looked at India as a country, maybe because we weren't so connected with the rest of the world, but we did actually fairly well. We were very, very resilient during the financial crisis. And I think we really, really emerged much stronger. And then we had the digital revolution, where it was about how do you kind of use technology in the form of tools and processes so that we become more efficient, we also become more effective. And I know during that time, there was a lot of concern in terms of, will I be relevant? Will I be replaced by, a computer? But that hasn't happened. We have replaced parts of what we are doing using digital. And then, of course, we had COVID-19. I think that, again, was a pivotal tipping point, which has really, really changed how we work, right? And leadership became about how do you kind of lead a hybrid workplace? How do you lead through distance? And we've managed that pretty well. And again, there have been a lot of benefits that have come of that. And I think now where we are, in the land and the world of AI, it's really about the shift is how do you lead through judgment? Because knowledge, data, and information are no longer power, right? It's really, really judgment and decision making, which is now going to become the differentiator. So, if you think of it, every wave before this has changed the environment that leaders operated in, but AI is the first to reach into decision making itself. So that's kind of been I'd say the trajectory of disruption. And if you look at why do we believe this disruption is very different and why is it creating so much of anxiety? Because what's happening is that if you look at the earlier disruptions, it changed how work got done, right? So whether it was a computer or it was your mobile or cloud-ware tools or the cloud, it was about executing faster and being more connected. But now the disruption is that in some sense, the thinking is being done by AI. AI is touching judgment. And that's why the impact is landing a little differently. And, I was listening to a podcast on AI by, somebody who used to work with Sam Altman. And what he said was that the previous disruptions, a part of our work got impacted. But now AI is coming to disrupt everything. So AI is no longer just at the edges. It's at every level of the organization. And I think that's why it makes sense for us to be talking about this today and really figuring out where is it that we want to use it, where is it most effective, and where is it unhelpful. And let's look at the impact at different levels. So in this group that is here today, I'm sure we have people from middle management, we have people from senior management, we have people who perhaps are just starting off their careers, right? And if you were to ask each of them how AI is changing their job, it's very, very likely that we'll get different answers. It's the same technology, but 3 very different jobs are getting impacted differently. So let's look at that a little bit. Yeah. So the front line, which was really focused on execution and coordination, and I'm calling them the 3 altitudes of leadership. Middle management, which really played that role of translation and alignment between the front line and the executives. And the executives are those who gave direction and set the guardrails for how an organization would move forward. So if you were to ask frontline leaders what's changing, right? AI is actually absorbing a lot of the everyday tactical things that they did, and some of you do. Things like status updates, dashboards, that first draft in articulating something. So it's making your life much easier. You're going much faster. You're probably earlier, say if you could pull out 3 documents in a day, you're pulling out 5 documents in a day, right? Now, the danger of that is what I call the velocity penalty. By AI getting to do some of the mechanical stuff, which does not require that much of thinking, we are really moving to a situation where humans don't really have periods of rest. And they are left to do back-to-back work. And therefore, it can feel extremely exhausting. And I'm sure some of you identify with that. And the risk also is that leaders who can't tell good AI output from mediocre output become rubber stamps, approving whatever the tool produces. And this is a real danger because AI is still in a process of evolution. We cannot give up our thinking to AI, right? So at this level, the question you have to ask yourself is, what does good look like? So AI output becomes the start. However, you need to still lend your judgment. And the time that is getting freed up is time that you need to spend on coaching conversations. So as frontline leadership, the time that is getting freed up between the busyness of task and work, don't do it to generate and crank out more output. Use it for coaching conversations, right? That becomes really, really important because the human element, I said, is something that remains across levels. So this is a guardrail that you have to create for yourself. Let's look at middle management. So what's changing is that AI starts doing the translation work. Middle management really built their careers on. And in some sense, they were the sandwich. They were kind of joining the dots between what leadership was saying and what is the execution that needed to be done. So the risk out here is that, when you're hired to become just a broker, the role can feel very, very hollow. And you can begin to, in some sense, almost question yourself that what is the value that I am adding? Because I'm not doing things manually. Neither am I stretching, setting direction. So what is it that I'm doing? I know, I think for this level, the leadership challenge really is, if you think of thinking as a physical exercise, right? We all do physical exercise. Just because we have a car and it moves faster, it doesn't mean you stop walking. You have to keep walking to keep your body healthy. Similarly, you have to keep thinking to ensure that you're joining the right dots and you're translating the right thing into action. Otherwise, there could be a fire and you're actually pushing people in the wrong direction because you're asking AI, what is it that needs to be done? And the wisdom that you have, AI does not have. So new value is judgment on exception, building trust, which AI can't do, and catching what the system gets wrong. So that's really the challenge for middle management. And then if we look at executive leadership, what's really changing is that it's not a but, it's not AI or but executive leadership. It's about leaders and AI, right? So leaders need to be the ones who are deploying AI for problems that earlier were unsolvable. We were unable to do. And now by using AI, AI is able to truncate and synthesize information and give us insights, which otherwise might have taken very, very long for us to pull out or almost impossible. So what's important at the leadership level is to identify those messy, prickly problems that we weren't being able to solve and using AI in those spaces. It's not about over-trusting the dashboard and outsourcing judgment. It's not about letting AI join the dots. It's about helping AI in some sense show you all the dots, helping them truncate, and then using your judgment to say, is this going to work in the context within my organization is operating, the purpose that I hold, and the impact that I wanted to have. So in some sense, what good looks like is really acting as a human circuit breaker, setting guardrails for where AI decides and being decisive about what stays human. So that's really how it's impacting, these three levels of leadership. And as I mentioned, there is a hidden cost, and the hidden cost is cognitive load. And this cognitive load is applicable across all three levels because AI is compressing decision cycles. As leaders across these three levels, you're making more judgment calls and more often. And I hope we are doing it and not just leaving it to AI. And if we don't do that, don't act as people who are stepping back and looking forth what AI is giving to us, we can actually deepen a lot of judgments, a lot of biases that exist in the world, and do things which could diminish us and diminish the world around rather than multiplying us and multiplying the world around. So let's look at that in this new context where AI is touching all our lives. What does leadership really mean? I think one thing that becomes even more important is human depth. And I'll talk about why human depth is becoming even more important. And the second thing that sits with it is digital fluency. Now, human depth is really about reinvesting what AI saves into your people, into your teams. And digital fluency is around helping AI think with you and not for you. There's a big difference out here. When you make AI think with you, it takes away the laziness. A lot of us use AI because we are lazy. So leadership is about human depth and digital fluency. So at the front line, human depth is time saved, goes into coaching and developing your team. At the middle level, human depth is time saved, goes into real conversations, building trust, and also figuring out what are some of the exceptions And human depth at the executive level is time saved that goes into calls only you can make because you have the experience and the wisdom which AI does not have. At the digital fluency level, AI sharpens your judgment. It does not replace it for frontline. At the middle management level, AI stresses your thinking. The call still stays yours. And at the executive level, AI pressure tests decisions. It doesn't own them. So what does AI really put at risk, and why is that human element so important? So if you think of it, and I think I shared this with Jayasree during the session that we had at ISV. Before I was introduced to the magic of ChatGPT, I used to wonder how people wrote these eloquent posts on LinkedIn. And I thought, my God, they must have the skill of a writer. And then I realized that it was really AI that did the writing. So in my mind, now when I read a post, the first thing I question is authenticity, because it's so polished, it sounds so good, right? And all of us are flawed, and there's beauty in the flaws that we have. And I'm sure for a lot of you also, you kind of wonder whether this is Gayatri's voice or is this something that AI has put out there? So authenticity is something that AI is definitely putting at risk. The second thing that's kind of being put at risk is trust, because you don't know whether, again, where the ownership of something is it, I have known, for example, Jayasree, and I know this is the quality of output. Is this really her output, or is this something else? Or in a larger context, what's almost beginning to happen is anything that you get online, you begin to question it, right? Earlier, in some sense, technology built trust, but I think technology is eroding trust. In terms of innovative thinking, AI is trained on the past, leaning on it too hard. And really, if you have used AI to bring out some new thinking, it's not able to do it. So don't become AI slop, where you use AI to do thinking around something that's new and different. It's very hard for AI to come up with that, because what it's basing its thinking on is whatever is the existing data. And I think bias is something that I've already talked about, but AI really reflects biases, whether it's in hiring, whether it's in training, whether in certain kinds of decision making. So we need to really be careful that we don't use AI blindly, because it only perpetuates biases. And often we're not even aware of some of the biases that we hold. Having said that, none of these are reasons to avoid AI. They're reasons that leadership has to stay in the loop and be very intentional in terms of how each one of us uses AI so that our authenticity doesn't get lost. Trust is not broken. Innovative thinking is not replaced by, same thinking in a new bottle, because AI does a beautiful job of that. Our biases don't get perpetuated, and we are not putting forth AI slop. Therefore, what becomes more critical? Your judgment and discernment now more than ever, absolutely critical. Your ability to tell good output from mediocre output, your ability to signal good from just noise. So more doesn't mean good. Actually, I would say less means good. There's this phrase that, in some sense, in the mantra of my life, that simplicity is the highest form of intelligence. So more does not mean good. If it's simple, it's good, right? And you require judgment and discernment there. I think critical thinking, and curiosity. So our ability to ask sharper questions instead of accepting the first answer. So if I could see you all, the other question I would have probably asked you is, how many times has AI kind of given out total rubbish to you and you're like, oh my God, this is complete nonsense? And I'm glad we are able to pick that up. But if we just kind of accept AI slowly, we might lose our critical thinking and our curiosity. What becomes more important is coaching and developing people. There is a danger that we might just get busier doing more, right? Because our ecosystem might put that pressure. Your manager might turn around and say, oh, earlier before AI, you were able to turn this out in 2 hours. Now you have AI with you, turn it out in 1 hour and use that additional 1 hour to do task A, B, C, D. People are critical and become even more critical in the era of AI. So take the time to connect and have conversations. I think ethical judgment and clarity, knowing which decisions have to stay human and why, because AI might not take a balanced decision. And a balanced decision is when we balance emotion with logic. Building human credibility is something that AI can't do. So if you think of senior leaders, a lot could be outsourced. But in terms of motivating teams, inspiring teams, helping teams navigate difficult times, that's where human touch is just so important. Trust building and authentic communication. That's something that AI cannot do on your behalf. And adapting and learning agility. So, and the interesting thing is, if you look at performance metrics, none of these show up on that dashboard, right? However, this is really what is going to distinguish you from the average leader. So just kind of bringing, this part of almost, I'm speaking at you and I'm sorry for that, but I thought it would just be good to set context, is that the leaders who win aren't those the ones who use AI best. They are the ones who know exactly what it can't do at their level. So please continue to trust your judgment, continue to take ownership, hold yourself accountable. Everything does not need to be automated. So these are just some initial thoughts that I had around AI, how it's impacting different levels of leadership, how it's impacting leadership itself, and what it is that we need to be doing, or we need to be careful about and intentionally build certain muscles and not let them atrophy away. So Jayasree, I'm going to kind of, I know you have a couple of questions and I also see some hands up. So now I'm going to kind of open it up to you and the rest of the floor.
Yeah. We'll keep the question and answers towards the last 15 minutes. I have gathered a couple of questions again from the floor.
You're audible, right?
Am I audible, Gayatri?
You are, I can hear you.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, Prof, for the depth and breadth of experience and knowledge that you're bringing in from the layers of management, the cross cuttings we have, risks, and how we see AI as a future, right? With that idea, what I'm clearly understanding is humans still have a vast advantage, right? The qualities such as judgment, like you rightly said, observing, curiosity, creativity will still stand more important than ever before. That's something that's strongly hitting my mind. With that said, I have a question, as a leader or as a fellow leadership teams we have here, how do we create that permission to experiment? Considering we have people at early layers, early careers and middle layers, AI requires experimentation, right?
Yeah.
How do you think we can, create that experimentation, not only in the technology space, but everywhere, marketing, HR, talent pool or talent acquisition? Where do you think we can create this experimentation, and if you can throw some light there?
Yeah. And Jayasree, this is going to take I think especially because we have AI now, there can be a tendency, for example, for leaders to push work to people and say, use AI to do that piece of work. Yeah. But if you think of, or rather, let me put it differently. If I think of how I learned a lot just observing how other people did things. The technical stuff is easy to learn. So I'm not talking about the technical stuff so much, right? I'm talking about a lot of the other softer stuff. So for example, technical aspect is one, but being able to, understand your client's needs, asking the right kind of questions so that you really are able to respond to the kind or deliver a solution that the client is looking from you, correct? A lot of that is art, which can only be learned when you are observing other people who have developed that over a period of time. It is not about innate inborn intelligence, correct? Because that's the knowledge piece of it. But the art piece of it is this. And the reason why I'm bringing that into the conversation, Jayasree, is if that basic is not there, you can't really experiment. I can only experiment if I have some ingredients to experiment with. So that's one part of it, that as leaders within the organization and as people who are fairly young in their careers, ask for that entire aspect of almost apprenticeship. That, can I sit with you in a client call? Yeah, I can sit and do my coding. But what's really, really important is for me also to sit with you in the client call to understand what the client needs, right? Because then I can translate properly. I think the second element is, organizations to be able to create an environment where experimentation, the direct output is not success. Experimentation by its very nature is iterative, right? Now, I might turn around and say, use AI to do this, but then I'm not learning through that process. So it also means leaders having the patience to say that go try it, give it a shot, right? You might get it right, you might get it wrong, you might take a little more time. That's okay. And I know we are short and low on patience in the world, but I think today more than ever, if we don't ring fence this, we are going to have a situation which we kind of had during, the technology disruption, where we had, very good tech people suddenly playing the role of people leaders, but not having had the experience of leading and managing people. And that created a lot of stress within the entire organizational system. So I think patience, the permission to fail, and first, just giving people the time to observe and learn.
Awesome. I clearly like the way how it goes on individual capability to, the leadership level and evolving continuous learning is one of the key things. Permission to, fail. That's something I clearly liked about it. Okay, Sunil is asking to raise my voice.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Sunil.
Yeah. So one question from the cultural shift side, right? Like, I clearly like the idea you said, okay, leaders should often ask us to experiment more, right? And we are already doing that. And luckily, we have been doing that since the beginning, I believe. It's been like 5 months, and I don't see that gap, to be honest, at least here at our organization.
Yeah.
Now, looking at, all these layers of management we have, what do you think is that behavior that you see in a hallway or in a meeting or maybe in a product review that we should adapt as a 10-year-old organization, as an organization? What's the cultural shift you think which we should, bring into the organization?
Yeah. Again, it might be a very simple answer, Jayasree, but I think what AI is bringing to our fingertips is knowledge. Yeah, everybody's an expert now, and everybody's an expert at everything. And with that can come a level of arrogance, and arrogance of two types, right? One is I know it, and two is there's nothing else left to be known. Yeah. And therefore, we might be talking at people, not taking the time to understand other people's needs. Are you not able to hear me? Can you hear me, Jayasree?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we lost you for a few seconds, I guess.
Okay. So what I was saying is the answer at one level is very simple. Knowledge is now at our fingertips, and we are all experts at everything. So whether it's health, nutrition, coding. Today, if I wanted to do coding, someone who is, my daughter says, Mama, you're a Luddite and you live under a rock. So that's the level of, technology prowess I have. I could probably go and code using AI, right? So with that can come a level of arrogance, an arrogance that I know everything or I can find out everything. And therefore, I don't need to know anymore. However, what we forget is that it's really, really important to understand what the other person needs, what the other person wants. And the other person could be a client, it could be a team member, it could be a vendor, it could be a partner. And therefore, what becomes really important is curiosity and empathy. Because AI could take away our curiosity. Yeah. So I'd say curiosity and empathy are two traits that organizations would need to very intentionally nurture.
Thank you so much, Gayatri. I don't think I can say no to that. I truly agree to that. That's something we all experimenting and implementing the same. With that said, maybe I'll quickly open the forum for other folks. We have close to 130 members who are on the floor. Maybe we can open it for question and answers, teams.
Could you please raise your hands for someone who would like to ask a question?
Who raised?
Yeah.
Oh, we have also.
Yes, Ram.
Yes, thank you for your wonderful session. Good to see you. I mean, I like the wall art better. The painting. Yeah. So yeah, I've just noted out some points like you called velocity penalty, should not stop thinking. And we should let AI think with us, not for us. I mean, those are very wonderful points. And my question for you is, I mean, that question I have since when AI started getting into our nerves in the software development, me being a developer. So I had the privilege, I mean, of working 2.5 years, 3 years without AI in development part. And that with that experience, I have learned a lot. I mean, that we cannot have with AI is what I feel. So
and why do you say that, Ram? Why do you say that, Ram?
Because like we face certain situations wherein we pick a task and work on it for a complete week, and then we will know the inside out of it.
Absolutely.
And what are the failures that we can get. We fail and then we rework it. With AI, that failure is overcoming. So without failure, we'll never learn some things. That comes with experience, right? So not only in development, and even in other aspects, when you thought the dashboard we cannot trust. So that
Correct.
experience is what you guys, I mean, the experienced people built it throughout these years.
Yes.
So when someone is newly exposed with AI from the early stages of their career, how can they build this experience?
And Ram, this is, this is something, honestly, I wish I had a good answer, but this is something that really, really worries me. Because in the name of efficiency, in the name of cost cutting, organizations right now are taking the easy path where some of these roles are either being replaced by AI or people are being asked to use AI. And if we are not careful, we are going to have a situation where we are going to have top-heavy organizations, right? And at the moment, we'll have top-heavy organizations. And if we fast forward a couple of years down the line, if you have not had this base level experience, you don't have the discernment and judgment to move into a middle or senior management role. So like I was mentioning earlier, organizations will need to see what is that trade-off they want to make between cost cutting and using AI vis-a-vis at least the, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy, the hygiene factors which they believe are absolutely fundamental for each person to go through, for them to be, for example, a good coder.
Yeah.
So I think that discernment and judgment needs to come in. We can't be using AI for everything. We need to say we're going to use it here. But, for our people who are fairly young and just coming in, for the first 6 months, no AI at all. It's just like Ram, if I use a different parallel, I know you are too young, but those of us who have kids, and especially younger kids, what is one of the biggest things that people struggle with are screens? Right? Because it's taking away from different types of learning. And now what are parents doing? Parents are saying, until such age, I am not going to give you a screen.
Right.
So I think some of those calls would need to be taken down.
Wow, I didn't expect this answer. Like I was expecting this answer in my brain, but I thought I wouldn't hear something this kind from a management perspective. But yes, even I felt the same.
Yeah.
Having the traditional things, at least in the base level.
You
will be
need that.
helpful
There's
when
no
we-
substitute for
yes.
that. No, Ram. There's no,
Right, right.
it's just like if I go back to that analogy, I said, just because we have cars now, doesn't mean we stop walking.
Right.
Right? I can
Exactly.
definitely get faster to a place.
Exactly.
But does that mean I stop walking? No. If I stop walking, my health will get impacted. And similarly, our brains will get impacted. Our ability to handle failure will get impacted.
Yes.
Disappointment.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you, Ram.
Yes, thank
Lovely
you.
question.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes,
Shruti.
Shruti, please go ahead.
Hi, Gayatri.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today for the webinar. It was wonderful hearing you. So I have this question. We all talk about AI not replacing us and say that, okay, we are just creating more opportunities. But then based on your experience, what kind of workflows or roles did you see has demonstrated the most resistance towards AI? And also, I just have one more concern. So how do we advise companies to stop forcing AI into everything?
I'm getting really tough, but great questions. Great questions, which is really good because it means that those of you who are in technology are actually thinking of this, which is really, really good.
Everyday struggle.
Everyday struggle. So the first part of your question, Shruti, was, where are we seeing resistance to AI? And if I'm to be really, really honest, I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg when it comes to AI really, in some sense, replacing a lot of things that can be replaced. And the reason why I say that is, again, this is just based on my research. Right now, AI companies are really spending all their energy and their resources on teaching their agents to do coding, right? So that they can pretty much run on their own. They haven't even started putting thought or I'd say enough resources in looking at different industry verticals and where AI can replace. Having said that, I think, honestly, I'm not sure if there will be resistance anywhere, Shruti, because unfortunately, profit is a key driver. I think it would take a very, very wise and balanced leader to take calls to say, these are areas where we are okay with AI coming in, and these are areas we are not. Some of the areas which are dangerous are where there is, so for example, hiring. While AI is being used for hiring quite widely already, but my fear is that each one of us has certain judgments and biases, right? And I don't think we are paying enough attention to say, is AI perpetuating those judgment or biases, or have we been able to neutralize that? Yeah. That's one part of it. The second part, I think where there will be resistance or where I don't think AI will be effective is where you need that human touch and there's no replacement for it. So if you think of a hospital, the job of a nurse cannot be replaced. I think the job of a doctor can still be replaced. Right? Because the nurse does the caregiving. The nurse touches you. She makes you feel better. Doctor can still consult with you on the phone. Does that answer your question, Shruti?
Yes, yes. I mean, I saw Project Hail Mary, and then I saw a nurse attending to a robot attending to.
Well,
I mean, yeah.
Mercifully, we are slightly further away. So even within that, Shruti, if you think of it, the mechanical aspect, yes, but at the end of the day, you want to speak to a human being.
That is.
And so, for example, now, even say I'm calling my credit card company, I do not want to speak to the IVR. I want to speak to a human being. And I think more and more our tolerance for some of the stuff which has been replaced by technology will go down, also because trust is going down. I don't know if the IVR is has been some clone that's talking to me that's going to take away my money or hack my card. Unfortunately, I think AI is really going to lead to a trust deficit. Because you wouldn't even know if you're speaking to me or is this somebody who's doctored my voice and there's a deep fake out here.
Right.
So I think, it can lead to a very dystopian world if you're not careful.
Absolutely. Agree with
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This actually takes me back to a discussion with my brother the other day, wherein he's like, I don't want radiology. AI can do that. I want to get into something else. Yeah. All right. All right. I have one special guest here. Okay. He is Neil Anderson. He's my buddy and ex-colleague from Chase. I would like to, introduce him to our group. So he's basically a defense veteran. And then that's one of the big reasons. Yeah, he's a defense veteran. He's joined Chase again as a technology person into the corporate world. You see the shift, right, from defense to entire technology. So I mean, I'll open for Neil to go ahead and quickly introduce himself for the entire forum. Hey, hi Neil. So good to see you after so many days.
Hi there, yeah, thanks. Oh dear, nothing like it put on the spot. I'm all embarrassed. No, nice to meet you. Absolutely fantastic session. That is really enjoyed that. Obviously, and across tech, we're all using a lot more AI, and it's really good to kind of see a different, to get sort of different perspectives on it as well, and even just in a sort of forum like this, rather than just, like you say, head down onto the LLM or onto Copilot and just seeing what it gives you. So it's very good to do that. Obviously within defence as well, there's greater adoption of AI as well, which is quite an interesting one as well. I did have a question, and I think, as I say, thanks for inviting me into this, Jaya. It's really good. But no, I did have a question though, Gayatri, and thank you for that. So I suppose it's in two parts, and it kind of links with a lot of the previous ones. How do you see, the adoption of AI across tech and even across sort of wider society, I suppose, in the next, future, 5 to 10 years? Wouldn't want to say long term because it goes so quickly, as we know. But also, I suppose the second part of that is there any areas you can think of that we might actually be surprised where there is a lot more adoption and we never really thought that was going to happen? Because obviously that sometimes does happen, where tech or something gets used more and you think, oh, I didn't really expect that would happen. I didn't really think of that area, consider that area. Right, so that's it really. That's my questions.
Yeah. So the real answer, Neil, is I honestly don't know. I think some of it will depend on are there any guardrails that are put on AI, both from a, I'd say, governance perspective, as in governments putting some guardrails. And if governments don't, I think some self-regulation that organizations need to do. Because at least what it seems right now and what the common narrative is that AI is ready to pervade into all parts of our lives, right? Where I would like to see AI being used, Neil, is stuff like, I live in Gurgaon, right? What bothers me so much on a day-to-day basis is the garbage that gets dumped out on the street just because there is a contractor that doesn't want to make the trot and go and dump it at the designated spot. Or just the traffic snarls that we have, because it's not because we don't have enough roads, it's because just time motion studies have not been done properly. So I think at the societal level, there are so many complex problems that AI should be solving, and we should be using AI there rather than, replacing, a lot of, say the job of a coder or the job of an entry-level analyst or a consultant. So I know I'm not responding to your question. This is more in terms of a wish, Neil, because yeah, I mean, that's where it will actually make human life better. And I hope we are able to kind of use that as our North Star as we use AI.
No, I think you did sort of respond to that. If there's a need, then there'll probably be an action. So yeah, I think you're right there. No, that's a good way of looking at it. No, thank you very much. Thank you. That's a good way of thinking at it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gayatri. I think, governance is definitely not the aftermath, right? We as technologists, I mean, at least I don't know about outside industries, at least from the technology point of view, when we are trying to deploy something in your pilot or in your production. Earlier, it's like, okay, it's just one result we'll see end of the day, right? You either push it into pilot or we see the result. Oh yeah, we are good. We are going to push it into production. Governance comes at later point of time in the traditional way of software deployment, but not anymore. Governance is not the aftermath. Governance needs to be considered at the beginning of everything.
Absolutely.
There was one image I think I came across LinkedIn. Okay, everything is good in pilot. That's the ship basically. It's sailing good, but when it hits the ocean, it's like it sees all the things that it hits. Like it could be data leaks, or it could be security issues. That when Neil asked this question, I think this is the picture that came into my mind. I thought I'll put it onto the table. Yes, governance is no more an aftermath, and security is again not an aftermath, and that's why these roles are emerging than ever before. True. I would throw my thought that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have time for one more question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, if anyone would like to go ahead. That.
So I think as you,
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Preeti was like, she's keeping her question to the last.
Oh, go ahead.
Does this even fit? So that was
Everything fits.
Nothing is out of syllabus, so to say.
Right.
So this is, based on the sales software, right? And we all are, I would say all the organizations are rushing into building all the AI products and all of that. And we as sales have just started, our own AI products and all. And we've always been into the service side of the industry. So what is that one thing, you feel that we should, or any organization should focus on when, they really want to get into the AI stuff? What is the one thing that they should always focus and, work on, even if whatever domain they are in, because AI is everywhere. So what's something that's missing and one should work instead of just rushing into creating the AI tools and
Yeah. So I think it, at a very fundamental level, they say during times of uncertainty, which is what we're experiencing right now, certainty of purpose is very important, right? Because otherwise we are all just kind of running helter-skelter because AI is this new shiny toy, and all of us want to kind of have a part to play, develop the toy, use the toy. I think this is the time we need to step back and say, what's the purpose of what we are doing? What is the impact that we want to have? And to take that impact out, what is the role that AI can play? And therefore, what is it that we need to develop? So I'd say go back to the drawing board, because it needs to align to your purpose. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We are on time.
Yeah, we are on time.
No, you're good.
Okay, cool then. Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Gayatri.
Gayatri. And this is such a great, session for all of us. Like I was telling, the depth and breadth is quite huge. A lot of takeaways. I mean, at least I don't fear AI coming and, replacing or taking anything here. Human intelligence always precedes over artificial intelligence. Curiosity, continuous learning. Empathy, creativity, all these takeaways, I have them in my mind now.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it back to my organization and my teams. Thank you so much. And, I personally wanted to thank you because, starting this series, maybe a small idea, but starting it with you, the right person, is like cherry on the cake. Yeah, and thank you so much, team here, and we've got good audience. And yeah, thank you also, Neil. A special thanks to you. I think it's 7 or 7:30 in the morning for him, and he still made it. Yeah, thank you so much, Neil. And you'll see this
7:30
coming
in the morning for me.
Oh God. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's quite valuable. The question that you asked us, it's quite valuable. Everybody here, like I said, we have people from early career, mid-level, and as well as seniors. Right? This discussion is very much useful for all of us. Not all of us will get a chance to go out and, interact with people outside of our organization.
Yeah.
Bringing that different perspective than something that we own is definitely need of for at least us. So
yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, everyone. And I'll see you guys again with another awesome session. Thank you so much, guys. You can stay on probably. We can probably take a small picture with you.